afternoon. My name is Mr. Kimball. This is the video that I mentioned when I talked about sending out the Sky Alert about mastery-based grading. I wanted to kind of talk about the philosophy a little bit and the reasoning so you guys maybe have a better chance on getting on board with this. A lot of research supports what we're doing here. It is a little bit challenging to break this old mold, so you don't see a lot of teachers doing this. We're getting some training, and you will see more and more teachers doing this, I think. I know all the teachers that have tried this have very, very positive results. The big issue with mastery-based grading is trying to correct bad behaviors with a grade value. In the grade book, there should be scores. Those scores should reflect a true picture of what your students know. Now, if that's an F, that should show that your students do not understand that concept. If it's an A, it should show, that should mean your student really, really knows it. If it's a B, your students know it, they get the idea, but if you were to ask them to teach you about it or to explain it in a different way, they probably can't do that. That's what a B should mean. A C means that they're really close to understanding this. They might be missing some of the smaller details that really bring the objective together, and so they're really close, but they don't quite understand the full picture, and that should be what a C reflects. And so when you go through Skyward and your student's not getting an A, that means that they cannot explain it to somebody else in a different way, or at least it should. The problem that a lot of teachers have, and I've had this myself, is that we try to teach good school behaviors with these mastery numbers. If your student does not do their homework and then they get a 0 for it, does that really show anything, good or bad, about what that student knows about their homework? Not really. If they get a 0 on their homework, it should mean that they didn't understand the homework. It shouldn't mean that they didn't do the homework. And that's a very small but distinct difference. And when they do their homework and they get a number like a 5 or a 1 or whatever the homework's worth, if they get a number on that homework, it should mean that they understand the homework, not that they just did it. And I think with homework, because it's considered practice, a lot of teachers have been grading it for completion, which completion is a behavior. It's not an assessment on whether or not they know the information. So this idea with mastery-based grading is that we're going to throw out those homework grades. Homework is still expected to be done. It's still graded with feedback. It's still looked at. It's kind of more of a work in progress. And a good student, and I say this very generally, a student who is doing school well, I'll generally refer to them as a good student. So a student who is doing school well does their homework. They don't cheat or pencil whip numbers in just to get it done. They do their homework. They wrestle with it. They work at it. They use their notes. They ask friends. They struggle with it and they get it done, and it's practice, and they learn from that practice. A student who is not doing school well, we could call this the bad student. They're not doing school well. They are just getting it done. They're copying it. They're using the answers at the back of it. They're essentially cheating because they're going to get a 0 if they don't do it. And that just, it skews the grade book. It does not give an accurate picture about what the kids know. So mastery grading says, well, throw out the 0s. So that's what I did. I threw out the 0s. You will see that they've got a 1 out of 1 in their homework because I can't change that at this point. So they all got 100% out of their homework as long as they are participating in this. So I don't have a problem just giving a 1 out of 1 and letting it be as it is. we still want to create an incentive. Now this is where you're talking about a behavioral modification, because we do want kids to do well in school. We want them to be good students. I have a couple forms here. The first form is an incomplete assignment form. Your student may or may not have talked about this a little bit. Try and get this in the picture. What this basically does is this shows that they did not do it. You could liken this to this is a delinquent payment on your credit card or your car payment or house payment or something like that. The bank knows you did not pay, and they're a little bit worried about you because you're not paying it. Now, in the reasoning here, you may not have paid it for a very good reason. Maybe you were absent. Maybe you didn't understand it. Maybe you had something going on like sports or a family thing, or maybe you have some more deeper issues with the family period. There are a lot of legitimate reasons students don't do their homeworks. Okay, if it is procrastination, I'm asking for details. I'm asking, well, if you procrastinated, what did you do at that time? Did you spend it on Xbox or go snowboarding or twiddle your thumbs or whatever it is? I don't know. But I'm asking them to have an honest conversation why they did not do their homework and when they think they can get it done. Okay, if time is a factor because they do so much stuff, I'm totally fine with giving them some more time. But I want an honest conversation here. I want them to self-evaluate. Why didn't you do your homework? And for a lot of the students, they're too busy. They're doing band and soccer and gymnastics and scouts and church stuff and other homework. They're too busy. That's a cause for concern. If they're too busy and they're not doing well on tests, something needs to change. And that might not be a fun conversation for anybody. But that's what this is trying to help us evaluate, I guess I want to say. Okay. This is it lets me know that they're not doing their homework side of the house. They're not doing their job at school. When they do get their work done and they turn it in, I will replace that with this. This is a late assignment report. It looks very familiar to the other report. The only difference is this little box over here. It forces them to recognize how many days late it is. Studies have shown that if you can recognize how many steps you take, so if you wear a pedometer, you will change your walking habits. If you start counting calories subconsciously, you will change your eating habits. If you count the amount of water you use in your house, you will subconsciously use less water. So there are studies out there that show just by tracking how late something is or how much of something you use, it will subconsciously kind of bring that thought to your forefront and you can make some changes. So we replace the incomplete assignment form with the late assignment form. So they kind of go back to back like this. So when I flip through my folder or my filing system here for these, I see that, yeah, they did do it, but they did it late. And I'm hoping that this number will change so that they'll turn things in less and less late. So that's a very good way of altering behaviors, which really, not doing your homework is a behavior. There's not a place for it in the grade book according to mastery-based grading. But again, we are trying to teach them how to do school well. This is something that we can do to try and change that behavior. Okay. Our tests have changed a little bit. I have made the tests into sections. I'll pull out a test here real quick. Sorry, I didn't have this available. The tests, this is the test that they took Friday. There's 6 sections on here, and each section has a certain number of questions, and we are evaluating them on those specific standards. So they're actually going to get 6 different test grades for this one test. So that's the biggest change you're going to see. What this does is this kind of allows us to narrow down what they missed. What I was noticing today while I was grading these things is that some of these students would have passed barely with like a 70%. But then if you actually look at the sections that they did fabulous on most of the sections. There was only 1 or 2 sections that they just did not understand, and they got like 0 out of 4. If you don't understand the difference between plant and animals and you got 0 out of 4, that's going to pull your grade down pretty significantly but is that a true reflection of what they know? Because they just aced all the other parts. So a one single percentage for this test is not a good indication of what they know. And so by adding multiple sections here, we can be more purposeful in what, sorry, my computer just beeped at me. We can be more purposeful in what we're looking at. We'll get better data. Okay, so that's one of the big changes that we've done. Along with this, we're allowing them to do some retakes of the tests. This was a hard one for me to adjust with, but I think there's good reason for this. Because at the end of the year, it's not about how many tests they took and how many A's they got. It's about how much information they understand, how much they're going to carry on to the next grade, because all these science classes, they're going to build on each other. So I don't want them to just kind of take their best stab at these tests and then move on. If it takes them a couple more tries, I think that they need that time to kind of work out some of these kinks. Again, we're pushing for them to do well the first time around, but if they just don't get it, I don't want to stop at them just not getting it. I want them to try again. I really do want them to get it, and maybe that takes 2 or 3 times. Okay, so we're changing our tests a little bit. Now tomorrow, what I'm going to be going over, well, tomorrow, whenever you get this video, the day after the test, what we're going over is an evaluation sheet here. Sorry for the bad copy. And so what they're going to do is they're going to look at each section, and they're going to essentially count up the number they got correct in each section and generate a score for each section. And there's a column over here for retest. They're going to make a check if they feel they need to retest any of those sections. Okay. There's a bottom part to this that says I did complete all of the cards and flashcards and study guides. I can't read it exactly, but I did all the work to prepare for this unit. They checked that box. Well, did they? Well, I don't know. Let's look. Do they have a whole bunch of these? If they have a whole bunch of these and they have a really bad test, that makes sense. They're not doing school well. They're not understanding the material. They're not practicing. Their tests are not going to be very good. That makes sense. If they don't have many missing assignments, meaning they are doing the work and their test scores are good, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. If you turn this over onto the back, what you'll see is there's 3 categories you can fall into for homework and 3 categories that you can fall in for tests. Now, if you do some quick math and you kind of cross multiply these deals, you end up with a total of 9 different groups that you can fall into. So try and zoom in on that for you. Okay, so your homework could be good, your test could be good, that's expected. If you look at number 5, homework satisfactory, test satisfactory, that's expected. Homework low, test low, number 9, that's expected. Now there's a spattering of these other groups where the homework is good, but the test scores are low. And you would ask yourself, well, is that person cheating? Is that person just getting it done to get it done? Or are they actually spending time in it? There's going to be more to that conversation. If you look at number 7, homework was low, but tests are good. You know what? Hate to say it, homework might be a waste of their time. That was me. Now, those people, because I've done this is me, number 7. I would fall into number 7. I was very bad at school, but I was blessed to be a sponge. I would take notes, I would never look at my notes again, and I would ace all my tests. And you know what? I did great until I was a junior in college. And I finally got to some material that was hard for me, and I didn't know what to do because I was bad at doing homework. I was a low homework person, and I didn't know how to do my reading, didn't know how to do my practice or study groups or ask questions. I didn't understand that stuff. That was not part of how I went through school, and it bit me in the butt. Dropped out of school. I went and banged a hammer against some forms for a couple years and figured out it's not very fun. So I figured it out. I went back to school, finished, graduated. I'm in a master's program right now. And you would ask, well, was it worth it? You know, I hate to say wasted, but I didn't use 2 years of my life as best as I could. About $80,000 more in debt than I should have been. I had full rides when I started, but because I dropped out and went back to school, you lose all that, and then you got to pay for school again. You know, if you look back, I'm 31 now. I look back and I think when I dropped out of school at 22, I think I needed to. And I grew up a little bit and I went back to school. Those students that are in number 7, that was my biggest reason for putting zeros in the grade book, to get them to do their work. But you know what? It didn't get them to do their work. And if you would have laid out the perfect road of school for me, I wouldn't have done my work either. I still would have went my own way. And as painful as that is, I'm about to be a father myself. You can try as hard as you want, but you know your kids. Some of them just are going to do their own thing. And when I look back and say, look at that time period, I almost think that I'm better off for it. A little more expensive, a little bit longer track, but I have more respect for homework now. And you know, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. I can tell you I was a number 7. I figured it out. I know your kids can figure it out. I hope they figure it out sooner rather than later. And I've told them this story. So if they're not doing their homework and they're getting good test scores, it is really hard to justify doing homework. It's really hard to do that because they don't need to. And so I guess I'm choosing not to give them zeros, and I'm choosing to try and adjust their behaviors and figure out how to do school well, to try and mitigate that. So that's kind of where this philosophy is coming from. So we are going through this. We are going to use our objective trackers to try and figure out whether or not we're doing our quizzes and tests well, and then we're going to look at our incomplete assignment forms and our late assignment forms to see if we're doing school well, if we're turning our assignments and stuff like that. So that's a little bit of the philosophy here. There's going to be some other things in here I won't get into. We still have our quiz retake forms. If they do want to retake parts of the test, they have to show me that they're willing to work. They need to prove to me through, yes, another form, evidence of effort. What did you do to show me that you're deserving to retake your test? If you have a whole bunch of these things and you do bad on your test, I told you so. If you want to correct these things, if you want to show me that you're studying and putting forth the effort and fix these, I'm more than happy to have a retest. But if you're not going to put in the work, it doesn't do either of us any good for you to just guess again. That's why we do those retake forms, those evidence, pieces of evidence to show you deserve a retake, that sort of thing. I'll show you this real quick. You can pause the video and read this a little bit more detail. These are actually the 9 categories that you're going to fall into using this system here, this this two-sided chart, this G, S, and N. So maybe we'll zoom in on that so you can read that. And then here is, and I guess maybe I'll stick this on Canvas. So that's my awkward video about standards-based grading. This is where we're going. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Shoot me an email. If the email is not good enough, let me know. We can set up a time to meet, or we can try and do this by phone. But all in all, I think this is going to be helpful for your kids. It will separate behaviors and what they know, and that's kind of the biggest issue here with the mastery-based grading. Are we grading their behaviors, or are we grading their head knowledge? Because really, in the world of academia, we're talking about what do they know, what can they show what they know, and that's what should be in the grade book, not how many times they're tardy or how many missing assignments they have, because they just might not need to do their assignments. That's a very rare case, and out of the 168 kids that I have, I would wager 5 or 6 of them cannot do their homework and still get good grades. The rest of them are going to need to do the homework, and so we're just reinforcing it a different way. So apologize if this is too long for you. Again, shoot me an email if you have any questions. All right.